Good morning, job seekers. It's been a little while since we've done a live event on our YouTube channel. So I just want to remind everybody how we handle these and how we do them. We are going to do our best to get to every question that job seekers have. So if you have one that you'd like to ask during this live stream, please go ahead and enter it into the chat. As always, Maureen is behind the scenes monitoring the chat and will help to make sure that I don't miss anything as we go through. I can see that several people have already started to join. Now, if for some reason you need to jump off of this live stream and you want to go back and see the information that's covered, please know that we are recording it and we will have it available on our YouTube channel for later. Today, we're going to be covering how to not fall out of searches as a job seeker. And, you know, this is a passion of mine. It drives me crazy when job seekers fall out of searches and never get seen for the great positions that they're qualified for. So what I'm going to be doing is showing you 5 different ways. And I'm going to show you 1, 2 that we've never shown before. Number 5 will be one which is based on fields of study, but I'll give you more details about that a little bit later. So again, if you have any comments, put them in the chat. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is go through and cover these one at a time, sharing my screen as we go. We will pause a little bit in between each one of these. So if you have questions on that specific way that you are falling out of the searches when companies and recruiters are looking for you, we can ask and cover that one before we move on to the next. Now, job seekers, I do want to make sure that when we're talking about falling out of the searches today, we are talking about specifically on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is LinkedIn Recruiter, which is the behind the scenes system that companies and recruiters use. It's just an applicant tracking system like any other. It's just a way for us to, in order to be able to find you and to get to you. So when we're going through and doing this, please know that it does work very similar to the other applicant tracking systems that companies are going to be using if they're pulling from their own database. So if you have questions on other pieces of LinkedIn, if you're not as familiar with LinkedIn, please go out to our YouTube channel and watch those videos. But I do want to start diving in and looking at some of these different ways you fall out of search. Now, this first one is one of the biggest things that affects job seekers, which is why I want to cover it first. Some of you may already be aware of this one. It is, I think, by far our most popular video that we've done, showing you how that job title field on LinkedIn Recruiter is so crazy important. Now, let me start by actually showing you LinkedIn Recruiter so we're all on the same page as to what we're looking at and such here. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so here you can see this is my profile, but what I want to do is show you LinkedIn Recruiter. Now, this is, remember, there's a billion profiles up on LinkedIn now, and the only way companies and recruiters find you is by searching. And they can cut that billion profiles a million different ways by going and using all of these different search filters that you see on the left-hand side of your screen that I am scrolling through. They enter in some sort of parameter, and then once they enter in that parameter, they can go through and look at the people it pulls up. Now, in addition to all the ones I just scrolled through on the left, there are also all of these parameters here. Now, for the sake of what we're going to be doing today, in using LinkedIn Recruiter, I don't want to be sharing other people's profiles and information without their permission. So I have forced LinkedIn Recruiter to pull up me and to pull up my profile. So as we're testing and working things through today, it will all be done with just me. You can see in the headline, I put testing profile today because every time I do this, I get a ton of people on LinkedIn sending me messages saying, Melanie, what's going on? What are you doing? What's happening? So it's just testing for this today. So the very first thing that I want to talk with you about and make sure that we're on the same page is on your LinkedIn profile, you have underneath your experience section, let me get down to that part, right here, you have your job title that you have. And most times when I'm doing a search on LinkedIn and I'm looking for somebody, like let's say I'm looking for a human resources director, a position that we're actually recruiting for right now. The very first thing that I'm going to do and enter into LinkedIn Recruiter is the job title saying, okay, I want to see people who are human resource directors. That is the first search people are going to always do before skills and everything else. If I type in a skill of saying, okay, well, I want this person to have employee relations, it's going to pull up all kinds of HR people. And that title is a way that very, very quickly helps me to narrow it down. So when you look at my profile, you can see on there that my current title is Managing Partner Human Resources Executive. So if I was looking for a managing partner instead of an HR director, I would come over into LinkedIn Recruiter, and under this job title field, I would enter in managing partner. You can see it right there. And you're going to see I come up in the search. Now, this job title field is so crazy important because even though I have been an HR director in the past, in my past life when I was still in corporate, if I enter in human resources director, you're going to see when the search comes up, I'm going to disappear if I check this radio button that says current. And you see, I just fell out of the search. Now, the reason that happens, that we choose, recruiters and companies choose that current radio button, is because we're trying to find people that are currently in that role, not people who have maybe pivoted out to something besides HR, maybe people that have moved on to CHRO level and aren't going to be looking at director roles. So that current button is almost always the default that recruiters and companies use when they're looking at people. Now, here's where this affects you as a job seeker. If you're a job seeker that has been laid off, lost your job for whatever reason, your company closed, a lot of times what you do is you come into your experience section, you go to this little pencil here that's on the right, and then you go into it and end this current job. And you do that by coming down and saying, I am not currently working. I unchecked that box, and you give an end date. So I'm going to go ahead and end date my current job. And you're going to see I'm going to disappear out of the search. Let's give it just a second for LinkedIn to catch up and to save this. No, I don't want to send everybody a message. Okay, I'm going to refresh my LinkedIn Recruiter so it gets that change that I just did. And then I'm going to enter, remember, managing partner was my current job, right? I'm going to go ahead again and enter managing partner. And I'm going to go ahead and choose that current link. And do you see what just happened? I fell out of the search. This is bad code, in my opinion, that LinkedIn has done. It should default back to the last job you had if you haven't had a job, but it doesn't. So for any of you that are watching this, either the recorded video, this live stream with me right now, if you have end dated your current job and you don't have anything above it, you're falling out of the search. So this begs the question, well, what do I do? I can't just say I'm in that job forever. You're right, you can't. But we do have a workaround for you that will get you into that search. And let me show you that now. So let's say that I am no longer with CGO Recruiting. I decide to close the company, whatever, and I've end dated that. Or I'm a job seeker and I lost my job in that. The way to come up in the search is to go in the experience section, click on that plus, and add a new position. And I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to add this as, I'm going to say managing partner is still the position that I want. I'm going to say managing partner right there. I'm going to say employment type, full-time. The company name, I'm going to say I am currently seeking a new role. Now you'll see there's lots of people that have done this already from our advice. So there's lots of companies already created out there, like currently seeking and stuff. Just pick any one of them. It doesn't really matter. I can give a location. I don't have to, but let's say that I choose to, that I want to. I can leave the location type blank. It doesn't really matter. This checkbox is the key. This checkbox that says, I am currently working in this role. And then for the start date, I'm just going to put the year and say 2023 and go ahead and click save. Now it's going to add this, and I'm going to show you what it looks like on my profile now that I've added it. You can see it right here. Let me go out so you can see it from my main profile. Oh, am I not sharing my screen? You got to be kidding me. Hold on. I just did that entire thing and didn't show you how I did that. Let's go back and do that one more time. Bear with me. Welcome to the joys of a live stream. Here we go. Okay, let me take this off and I'm going to do this again. And then I'm going to show you how I did it. My apologies. Let me see quick. You want to delete? Yes. Okay. Let me see if I can back up in the comments and see when was the last. Okay, here we go. All right, so I have this job here that I've ended. To add in, so I can come up in the search, here is how you do it. My apologies, guys. Okay, so I am going to add a position. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the position of managing partner back in. I'm going to say employment type full-time. Don't really have to select that, but I'm going to. For the company name, I'm going to say currently seeking new role. And then for the location, I'm just going to put Houston. You can really put whatever. Again, it's not a required field. This is the key checkbox you need. This one that says, I am currently working in this role. And then just put the year that you started doing it. In this case, 2023. And so now let me show you what that looks like when I actually get it onto my profile. Give it just a second for LinkedIn to catch up. Yes, okay. Go back to the beginning where my profile is. And you're going to see it says managing partner currently seeking new role. Now, what does that do to LinkedIn Recruiter? Well, let's go to LinkedIn Recruiter. And let's say, again, you can see me coming up in the search here. Now, remember, I fell out of managing partner when I marked my position as not current. Now I'm going to go back in and re-enter in a search parameter of managing partner. And I'm going to choose that current radial button. And when I choose that current radial button right there, do you see how I come up in the search? Right here, managing partner currently seeking new role. Again, really fast to show you this. If I am back in my profile and I delete this out, and I take out this managing partner that I entered back in, I'm going to delete the experience and just leave it with my end dated experience that's here. When I go back to the search and try to search for a managing partner, somebody who's currently in that role, managing partner, change it to current, which is what they're going to do, I fall out of the search. Okay, I know that was a little quick because I did it wrong the one time and I was trying to back up and do it again. I want to go and look at some of the comments before I go too much further. I want to try and address the comments that are specifically around this before we go on to the 4 other ways that you fall out of the search parameters. So let me go through from the beginning and see if I see any of the comments in. So I'm going to, for the moment, I'm going to jump over some of the other questions that are not focused on this. And then I will make sure that if we have to come back, we can do it. Okay, so if you have a question on what I just did, please let me know. Here's somebody that said, I recently added this to my profile and it shows up at the top of my work experience. That is great. That is exactly what we wanted to do. Okay, and here is a great comment from Marie, which says, what if I am open to multiple job titles? Okay, so this is something, and we've done this video before where we've kind of explained how this falling out of the search works. It used to be that you could enter in the job title, space, comma, space, job title, space, comma, space, and it would still have you come up in the search. There's been a little bit of a change on that, and it looks like it's not necessarily triggering the search for all of it. So what you need to do is put the job title that it is most important that you come up in first. Now you can add more job titles than that, but I want to show you how this works. Marie, this is a great question. Give me 1 second and I'm going to show you, share my screen again and show you what I mean by this. So remember on my profile, I had entered in and I took it out. I'm going to enter back in that experience and I'm going to add in more than one job title, just like Maria's saying. So let's say the first one I'm going to do is Human Resources Director. And then I'm going to put a space, comma, space, and put VP of HR, space, comma, space, HR generalist. Okay, let me fill in the rest of this really quick just so it'll show up. Seeking new role. I'm in this 2023. Okay, so you see what I did and how I did it. I'm going to go ahead and save this to my profile, and you're going to see it appear. Dun, dun, dun. Come on, LinkedIn. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to go back to LinkedIn Recruiter. So with the way that I just added, I'm trying to show up in more than one HR type of a position, right? So if I type in the job title, Human Resources Director, right here, and I choose current, you see how I came up in the search? Now remember, I also have VP of HR here. Let's clear this out and put in VP of HR. Okay, now the system is trying to default me to Vice President of Human Resources, which is how it did it. So I'm going to change and look at Generalist just to show you how I'm doing this. No, it's still going to go Human Resources Generalist. All right, we'll go back to the VP of HR. Hold on, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to edit this to say Vice President of HR because I want to make sure it's as easy as possible for you to see this. There we go. Come on, LinkedIn, save. Okay, so now I'm going to go back over here. I got to refresh this just so it takes the change here, and you'll see it pop up Vice President of HR. Okay, now let me put in the job title, Vice President of, well, it's going to be close enough. Okay, I'm going to switch it to current. And you see how I still came up in the search? Vice President of HR right here. Now, I will tell you, this does not always work. I have seen it, and we've tested this with a couple of people where it actually still had you fall out of the search depending on how it is done. In this case, there's an example, Human Resources Generalist, I fell out of the search. Vice President of HR, Human Resources, I came in the search. What it's doing is it's pulling it from other sections. This is why this is so incredibly frustrating for job seekers, because I have the advantage of LinkedIn Recruiter. And this is why we offer this service actually on our website, where you can book one-on-one time with me or the team, and we will test your profile for you. We'll stay on the phone with you for an hour and test your profile. And if you want details on that, it's on our website. But the reason we do this is because it's not easy to always see how you're going to fall in and out of the search. So what I know does work is the first job title. As long as you enter in the exact first title you're looking, it will recognize that even if you've set it up as a currently seeking job seeker position. If you do not, if you have it as a second or a third job, it will come up if they search it more by a keyword than if they search for that exact title. Okay. So Marie, enter more than one, but put the one that's most important first. I hope that answers your question. Let me see if there's anything else on this one. Dun-dun-dun. Okay, so kind of associated with this, so Jeff is asking, how do I apply this currently searching to my resume? You actually don't have to, because the only reason you're doing it on here is because you're trying to come up in the search. On the resume, it's actually just moving your great experience down, so you don't normally have to put this on unless you have a very, very large break. So an example of that was during COVID times, where a lot of people, were laid off in the beginning of COVID, and they just could not find a job for a year and a half, 2 years, because that was the market and the economy, right? For those people, instead of having a 1.5 to 2 year gap on your resume, you can put a position in there of currently seeking for a job, during COVID times or whatever that is. And then when you do that, you want to make sure that you are putting bullets underneath there of what you did during that time frame to keep your skills as strong as they possibly could. And it doesn't have to be things that were paid for, right? I'm not talking about you had to go get a master's degree or you had to pay $600 for a PMP class. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about even anything that you did through LinkedIn Learning, things that you watched on YouTube where you maybe picked up a skill of how to use Python, how to use ChatGPT, whatever it is. You want to show how you stayed current with your skills during that time frame. And that's the only point that you really need to put on your resume. Okay, another question. Does spaces between commas matter if you list different positions under experiences? So again, okay, I've tested this with slashes, with the pipes, with commas, and I wish I could tell you the behind the scenes algorithm on this, but I can't tell you. The pipes seem to not work as good as the commas or the slashes. But because I've seen it go funky with some of the pipes and other things, I always recommend you put the space, comma, space just to be on the safe side so you know it's pulling it right, because it doesn't seem to be pulling it consistently. I know that doesn't make sense. I don't know why they would program it that way. I have no idea. It goes funky sometimes when you put something right up against the word, like it's trying to read something else or not matching exact. Welcome to LinkedIn. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Joanne said LinkedIn also allows you to list 5 job titles when you're doing your profile. That is true, and I want to show you where that is, but it's very misleading of what this does. Let me go back and share my screen. Thank you for bringing this up, Joanne. When you are on your profile, and what Joanne is talking about is when you're in your open to work section, which you should have turned on. If you have any question about whether you should or shouldn't have that on, please watch our videos on it, and I promise you we'll turn it on after those. Okay, so when you are actually in your open to work section, which if you don't have it turned on yet, whoops, my picture is in the way. Right here is where it is. See this open to? And that open to finding a job. It may be called open to new opportunities. LinkedIn has baited this different. You have the ability to enter in 5 job titles here. And you can put like, HR generalist, whatever you want to put. And you can add, again, up to 5 and then save it. And then that's, I'm going to do that. And that's going to actually have that information out there. Okay. And let me show you. See this open to work and human resources generalists? Once I add that, it actually goes onto your profile in LinkedIn Recruiter. And let me show you where that is. So on my profile, I may need to refresh this. Give it just a sec. And it hasn't refreshed it yet. It will end up showing on my profile that I have the open to, you know what? It's not going to show it because I'm with the same company. It will normally show, let me change it and then I can make it show. Here's a great example to show you the difference between these 2 sections on the open to work. Because I chose this one, it's hiding it because I'm looking at it from the same company. If I choose this one, it will show it to me on LinkedIn Recruiter. That's just a way that LinkedIn works to make sure that your current company doesn't know that you're looking for a job. Okay, let me go back in. And now it should show. Oh, come on, LinkedIn. It may take it a second to go over. Okay, I promise you, it will show on there, those 5 job titles that you do enter under here. But here's the kicker that LinkedIn doesn't tell you. Those 5 job titles do not work for the searches. It's only information for companies and recruiters that are looking at your profile. If I enter in a job title that matches one of those in the search, you will not come up if you've only got it placed there. again, it would be easy to connect those things, but it does not connect. And so it's only an informational purpose if you have it there under those things. Okay, let me see if there's anybody else who has a question specifically on this, and then we will go on to the next one. Let me see, I think. There was another question. What do you do when the job title does not show up on LinkedIn? For example, I'm looking for a study startup and LinkedIn does not save it. I do not know. I'm going to save that comment for a little later, and then I will go back and see if we can't test that for you and see if we can figure that one out. Okay, let's go on to the second way that you're falling out of the search, and that is by location. Again, LinkedIn does not tell you, job seekers, where you currently are, whether your location is included in a certain search area or not. So let me show you live what I mean by that. If I look at my profile, I am currently set, my location here is set to Greater Houston. If I go over into LinkedIn Recruiter and I'm doing a search for somebody like me, and I say, okay, I'm looking for somebody who is a human resources director, and I am looking for somebody in Houston. And I choose Houston, Texas, I fall out of the search. Now, I live in Houston. I live in a suburb of Houston called Spring. We are Houston. But LinkedIn has sometimes more than one location for an area. This happens especially with very big cities like Houston, like New York, like LA, but it sometimes happens with even smaller cities. And so it's really important when you are choosing a location that you are choosing the location that is considered like the primary location near you. So I had somebody who we worked with this week where we were testing through his profile, and he was in a very small city it's a suburb of St. Louis. And he had listed as his primary location that suburb of St. Louis as opposed to St. Louis. But when we went in and we tested his profile, boom, he fell right out of the search. So location does matter. And when you look at LinkedIn, you may think, well, in the same thing in that open to work section, you can enter up to 5 locations. But the 5 locations are not considered a primary location and don't count for the search until I make the search say the person is willing to relocate to that area. And let me show you that. That is on this search. If I go to the locations, if I am looking in the current area right here, I fall out of the search. Now, if I had listed in the open to work that Houston is a place I would relocate to, then I would come up to the search if I clicked this button. Now, why don't more recruiters click that button? Because it's going to get everybody. It's going to get everybody in the world who put United States that they're willing to relocate to. So that current primary location, which is driven off of the primary location you choose on your profile, is very, very important. And as a tip, if you're looking at changing, you want to move from Atlanta to, Chicago, you're trying to get a job in Chicago, it's very hard to get a job in Chicago if your primary address is set to Atlanta. But if you change it in advance of your move, you'll start getting contacted for locations there. And it's easy enough to put on your profile somewhere in your about section, going to be relocating to Chicago in the next month. And that way it's easy to explain when they call you and they're like, well, wait a minute, which city are you in? Well, as I put on my profile, I'm going to be there in a month and I'd love to talk with you about jobs. Okay, let me know before we go on if anybody has any questions on the location setting. If you do not, then I will go ahead and go on until the next one. It looks like we are good with questions. Maureen, if I've missed anything, let me know, but I think we're okay on the questions for location. Okay, let's go on to the third one that you fall out of the search. And this one, it's not something that I can easily show you. Oh, wait. I'm going to back up. Phil put a comment out here that says there is a section for locations remote. I have Houston selected. Does that limit me to Houston-based companies? I want to be considered for remote jobs regardless of where the location is. You are exactly right, Phil. You do. And let me show you where he's talking about. When you turn on you're out of work, or you're open to work, the same way you can enter up to 5 job titles, you can enter up locations. And if I say I am willing to look at remote jobs, it gives you a second set of locations for remote. See how it says Greater Houston? If you're looking for a remote job, you're not looking for a remote job in just Greater Houston. Put whatever, country that you are in, United States. And that way you'll come up for remote jobs regardless if they chose the actual different, if they chose a location when they did that search, you'll show up regardless. Now, the only thing I will say, for those of you who are trying to work remote, and this is going to be it's not necessarily just US specific location. When a company is hiring somebody remote, they still have to be able to pay that person and manage the taxes for that person in that location. So, for example, if you are living in Washington, D.C., and you're applying for a remote job, and the company is actually headquartered in Louisiana, and they are not set up to pay anybody outside of the state of Louisiana, then they can't hire you without getting that set up, which is why sometimes you will see companies put remote locations that are still state specific. It's got to do with taxes. And this works the same internationally. So if you are in another country and you're just like, well, but I can do this work remote for you, there's a tax issue. And can they pay you in that country? And are they set up to do that? And that's why sometimes you think I should be open for any remote job in the world. They can't necessarily do it just because they're not set up to do it. And it can be very costly in some cases to get that set up. It depends on how complicated the state is or how complicated it is from the country. And honestly, it's just the willingness of the company to do it. Okay. All right. Let's go on to the next thing, which is a locked profile. Now I'm not going to show you this one live. We're going to talk it through because I'd have to show other people's profiles and I don't want to do that. So for a locked profile, there are 2 versions of LinkedIn Recruiter. And LinkedIn Recruiter is crazy expensive. All of us in recruiting and companies doing this really want there to be a competitor to LinkedIn. There is not. There is no other system out there that lets us get to not only the active candidates that are looking for a job, like you see on Indeed and Monster and Career Builder and Dice and RigZone, but also the passive job seekers. And those are the ones that are just out there, networking and stuff and may not be looking for a job. LinkedIn is the only one currently that lets us do that. And that's why they're the behemoth. But LinkedIn has these funky rules about you can only connect with this many people and you can't see people that are first, second, and third level connections. So one of the things that they have, there's 2 versions of LinkedIn Recruiter. There's the enterprise version, and that is for very, very large companies that are spending a ridiculous amount of money to use LinkedIn Recruiter. They're doing like 50 job postings or unlimited job postings. It's a lot. And then there is a secondary version that is still LinkedIn Recruiter, far more than premium and what you guys get to see. It's like the one that I have. And it is reserved for staffing companies, recruiting companies, search companies. And on that one, as they're doing searches for candidates, they can't see you. You come up as a locked profile unless you are a first, second, or third level connection or a group member with the person that is searching. Now that's a huge thing because so it comes up with a locked profile. How do I then get to see your data? Well, the way I get to see your data is I have to use one of my unlocks. For each seat that you have on this version of LinkedIn, you get 30 unlocks a month. So you can't buy any more, which I don't know why LinkedIn does that because it seems like it'd be a huge revenue stream for them to do more, but you only get 30 a month. And if they unlock it, it unlocks for everybody on the contract. So what that means is the bigger your network on LinkedIn, the less chance you have of becoming up in the search as a locked profile. Because once they're out of unlocks, they just can't see you, right? They can't even see your name. There's no other way for them to scroll to you. It just says locked profile. So because of this, the bigger your network is on LinkedIn, the less chance you have of coming up. LinkedIn has a max of 30,000 connections that you can have. I am actually currently at the 30,000 max, so I can't connect with anybody else. You can follow me, you can do our company page, but I am maxed at the 30,000. But if you can, job seekers, take the time, connect with as many people as you can to get your number of connections up, because the more it's up, the less you come up as a locked profile. Okay. Is anybody else on that? No. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next one that we see all the time. And then I have 2 more to go, and then we'll go through and just start answering all of the questions that are out there. Okay. The next one that I want to talk about is lack of data. Oh my gosh. Some of these career coaches drive me insane. If you feel the need to go get a career coach, do not talk with someone who has not worked in these systems, doesn't have a background in HR or recruiting, talent acquisition, and doesn't understand how this works. You can use them for a career coach on other things, but not on this job search process and getting found and doing it, because they give advice like, and I hear this one all the time, you don't want to put too much data on your profile because you want to remain a secret. So then the recruiters and companies are reaching out to you and actually want to talk with you, because then that's how they'll learn more about you. That is complete garbage, because the reality is, if you don't have enough data out on your profile, you don't come up in the search. And let me show you how simple it is to fall out. Let's go back to my profile. Now, you think the things that all that data that you're entering and stuff, it's, oh, I've got enough. I've got the basics. Nope. Add everything that's on your resume and more. Everything that's on your resume and more. And I'm going to give you an example. So I have used, one of the systems that I use is SuccessFactors. And, I'm not in job search right now, so I'm not looking for a job. But I haven't added it to my profile, so I can show you how this works. If somebody is looking for an HR role and they want somebody that has experience with SAP SuccessFactors, and they click, that's what I'm looking for, that key skill, I just fell out of the search. Now, is that a key skill that I have? I absolutely do. I've worked on it for years and years. But because I haven't put it on my profile, I fell out of the search. Now, remember, LinkedIn gives you 50 skills that you can enter in the skills section, but you can add more skills all over the place on LinkedIn. Any place where there is a keyword area, like your about section, if you took a class on like SuccessFactors or something, if you did a project, all of those keywords count. And if I had that listed anywhere, I would have come up in this search. And if you don't come up in the search again, they can't contact you. You're hidden. They never see you. So constantly people fall out because they do not have enough data. And we actually did a video, I think it released this week or last week, about the skills section. If you're thinking to yourself, I have 50 skills, I've had 50 skills for years, stop what you're doing, go back to your profile and look at every one of those skills again. Because the reality is, what was important or what skills you had 10, 15 years ago, you may think you have everything that you have now, but you might not. You may need to update those skills and say, I have this additional, which I didn't have when I created my profile 10 years ago. So take that time to go back out and relook at it. Remember, if you're having to remove skills because you're trying to get that 50, you can always put the skills someplace else. It will still count. Or the ones to remove are ones that are like listening, communication skills, motivated employee. I am never going to search for those things, right? Those are soft competencies. I'm not saying they're not important. They, of course, are important. but you're not going to be searching for those in a system. You're looking at a job description saying, what are they looking for? Let me enter in the parameters. They're looking for somebody with success factors, with union negotiation skills, with SolidWorks, whatever it is. They're going to enter in those hard parameters to see who comes up in the search, not the soft competencies. Okay, let's go one more time. I love your Amy has hallelujah on career coaches, not coming from HR, looking at you sales and marketing folks. All right, let's keep going and talk about our last one. Now, this is something new that came up as a question, and we started looking more from one of the Between Jobs Ministries events I was at recently. And this is a section that you may not even remember having filled in because it was when you first set up your profile. Let me share mine and I'll show you what it is. It is actually called Fields of Study. And this is associated with your education. So let me go down to the education part of my profile. You can see I went to University of Texas at Austin, hook 'em horns, and I got a degree in applied learning development. When I entered this in way back when, and it's been a while since I entered it in, I went in and chose the field of study, which is what my degree is in. The reality is there's actually a way for me as a recruiter to search on this field. And it is something that I even and my team uses quite often. And let me give you an example where we use this a lot. If you're a mechanical engineer, there's always people wanting people with a background in mechanical engineering. And even for like a sales position or a procurement position, a lot of times I will get clients say to me, I really would like somebody who has a background in mechanical engineering. Now, you may have never done a day in your career as an actual mechanical engineer, but the fact that you have that degree in engineering is huge. And it works the same with other things. So for one of the HR roles, the hiring manager said, I'd love this person to have some experience in learning and development. Well, it's a way that I can search back on this field of study. Let me share my screen again so you can see this. When I am in LinkedIn Recruiter, I can go down and look at fields of study. Oh, I don't think you can see it because my picture is in the way. Here it is, fields of study. And I can enter in a field of study like mechanical engineering if I wanted. Why am I coming up in mechanical engineering? Oh, I may have changed. I think I changed something for the test to try and make it see. But the field of study, if you did not enter it in, enter it in. Make sure that you do it. Put whatever your degree is in, because there is a way for me to search, and we do actually use it. I've actually also had ones where they've said, I'd rather have somebody with a finance degree than an accounting degree. I'd rather have this rather than that. And that's another way that we use your information and data to go back and see, how can I take this billion profiles and narrow it down to a reasonable number of ones to look at. Okay, so I'm gonna try now to answer questions. I know I've been talking now for like almost 50 minutes, and I really want to get you guys a chance to ask me anything you have that is in your job search. I will do my best to answer each and every one, and then we'll go through and see if there's something else that we need to test based on that data. Now, I know also I've covered a lot of this stuff really, really quick. So if there's something, Maureen, at the end of this, in the description, we'll put links to lots of the videos that we've recorded covering these different items. So if you have that question on something, please know we're going to go out there and make sure that we try and cover it as well. Okay, let's go back to the top of the questions and see what we have. Dun, 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 all the way. Okay. So the question from Literary Libra is, how can I get past the applicant tracking system? So I want to make sure people know that the applicant tracking system is not something that is just choosing to pull you in and out. It's not the system doing it. There is a recruiter or somebody that behind the scenes has done something to cause you to go out of the search. So there's a couple different points in the process where they're trying to narrow down the funnel of candidates. One way that you'll see applicant tracking systems do this kind of first chunk out of people is when you apply for a position, you may get questions that it asks you. It may be, how many years of HR experience do you have? How do you have experience using this software? Do you da 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 da? Whatever it is, they're using those questions most times to knock out people who aren't qualified. So, for an example, if this is an accountant or a controller position and it requires a CPA, they're going to put in a question of, do you have an active CPA? If you do and you say yes, you're going to go through the next level of the pipeline. If you say no, you don't have it because you don't, it's going to send you a rejection letter. So don't ever lie, right? Because if you lie to the process, you're going to get, and they find it out later, you're just going to get marked in the system, and then they're never going to want you for any of the other jobs. But how do I get past those? Well, if it's something like years of experience and how many years of HR experience do you have, it is not the time to be self-effacing. It's the time to really go back and say, okay, let me think of all of the years experience and make sure that you're giving yourself credit for all of the experience you have. Because if you're saying, if their minimum is 5 and you're just like, well, I had that first year, didn't really count, so I'm only going to put 4, you're probably going to get rejected out from the role. Try to give yourself credit for all of the experience you have. The other thing is, if you're constantly seeing questions come up that are focused, if you're applying for an HR director and you're constantly looking and seeing it's asking for success factors, and you are constantly having to say, no, I don't have any experience with it, go out and take a class, take a free class on YouTube, take a LinkedIn Learning. I don't care where you get it, but get some experience utilizing it through one of those classes so you can say yes. So you're not getting ruled out by the system at that point in time. And then how else do you get past the applicant tracking system? It's just data, right? The applicant tracking systems are reading what you have and saying, okay, you have all of this information, but I'm looking for this piece of data. I don't see it. I'm rejecting you. So the more information and the more data you have, the better your chance of getting through that applicant tracking system. I hope that answers your question. Okay. Let's see. Here is from Amy. I'm in human resources and talent development, but see that I'm being found on LinkedIn with search terms of financial analyst and other non-related terms. I have premium and see the results. Amy, without knowing your total situation, it would be hard, to know without looking at your profile and stuff. There are a couple of ways this can happen. And that is sometimes if you have worked in talent acquisition or human resources in a company that has a lot of financial analyst type of roles, they may have been finding you by searching the company and not searching the job title. That's a really bad way to do searching. If you are, that in recruiting and talent acquisition, but that is a way that it could happen. Otherwise, it should be basing it off your job title. You might try adjusting and changing it a little bit. So if you're putting HR, try putting human resources up there and see if it gets you a different result. Okay, let's see. Maureen said, did you know Melanie is on Twitter? I am. It's now called X. Elon Musk has renamed it X. I find Twitter very helpful, X very helpful, because it's a way that I can communicate faster with some people. So I've been sharing jobs out there and doing stuff. Twitter is not LinkedIn, and you have to be careful on it. If you're looking for something that's more curated on X and Twitter, there are communities is what they call them, which is kind of like groups on LinkedIn. I even started one out there with job search help. So it can be beneficial. Elon has said that he is going to be creating a competitor to LinkedIn. I'm really curious what that's going to be. So yes, you can absolutely find me out there if you want to go. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Question. I'm told that recruiters find us with hashtags as keywords, and we're supposed to use the creator mode with the hashtags assigned. Is that true, or should I have the keywords in my headline? Okay, I would love to know who gave you this advice, because No, we don't. Okay, so oh my goodness, these career coaches drive me crazy. Um, think about this. Think about it. If I am searching using hashtag recruiting, anybody who's following that hashtag is going to come up in the search, right? I don't search based on hashtags at all. In fact, I don't even know if it will let me do a search in a keyword using the hashtag as the start, but I can test that really quick to see if it will even let me put in a hashtag as a keyword. I will tell you though, no, we don't do it this way. Hashtags are used different on different things. Okay, wait, I should have just shared my screen as I did this. Hold on, Amy. I'm going to show you this. Those career coaches. Okay, I entered in hashtag recruiting into LinkedIn Recruiter. And what it did, you see how it pulled up CGL recruiting? See how that's what's highlighted, the recruiting? It's not pulling from any hashtag. It's ignoring the hash, and it's just pulling off the word recruiting. That's complete junk. Now, hashtags work different on different systems. On LinkedIn, you have the ability to follow hashtags. And what that does is it randomizes posts from that hashtag into your news feed. And I can show you that. Hold on, because that I can definitely show you. Almost there. Give me 1 second. Back to the screen. Okay. So if I am like looking for hashtag recruiting, see it right here? I can click on that and you can see there's 1 million people following that hashtag. That does not mean those 1 million people are in recruiting. It's all kinds of people just following that hashtag. It just means they want to see anything that's tagged with recruiting have a chance of it coming up in their search filter. So no, we don't search on that. And I will tell you, creator mode versus follow mode, if you are a job seeker, you should be in follow mode. Unless you have a really strong side hustle of being a content creator, and it's better be a really strong one, you should stay in regular, not creator mode. When you switch to creator mode, what it does is it changes your button, that's the connect button, to a follow button. It's required to be in creator mode. And so you have more people following you than connecting to you. You don't want that. You want people to connect with you. We've already talked about how the bigger your network it is, the better. We also, if you connect with them, then you can send emails back and forth. So if it's somebody like me, do you want to just follow me? Or if you have the chance to connect with me where you can send emails for free and stuff, wouldn't you much rather do that? So I'm sorry, but that data is completely false. Whoever told you, no way. Okay. Let's see. I think we already did Phil's. Amy said, I'm an HR director. Great. Amy, go apply for our job. That's out there that we just got from one of our clients. Okay. Let's talk about next. Matt said, how does the feature career break work in the search? It lets you list all the titles you're looking for, but will you still drop out? So we have a video on this, and the career break feature is broken on LinkedIn. Do not use it. And I'll show it to you live. Do not use LinkedIn's career break feature. Okay. So let me go back to my profile. On my profile, and this is something that we have a ticket open on with LinkedIn about, that we've been talking with them once we found out that it was broken. You'll see that there is a career break on my profile. Can you see it? There it is. And you can see I'm testing this feature for the LinkedIn help ticket. And that's because I keep trying to show it to them. And they're like, what do you mean? Look what happens. Wait, on my profile, do you see it's right after, in between New Park and Green Tweed? Now go to my profile on LinkedIn Recruiter, and there's New Park and there's Green Tweed. Do you see that? Here's Green Tweed. Here's New Park. Where's the career break? Well, the reality is it's not there. Bad code, they never connected it behind the scenes. They launched this big thing about the career break feature and said, hey, we want it to be there and be available so it helps support you job seekers, so recruiters and hiring managers can see why you have those gaps. But then they never allowed us to see it in LinkedIn Recruiter. Yeah, Good times, good times. Anyway, so because of that, we have a video with a workaround of how to show a career break. Do not use LinkedIn's career break feature. Maureen will also make sure we put that video in the description so you can watch how we did it and how we worked around it. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see what our next one. Okay. Kimberly Peters said, can you use this for a position that you would like to have? And what she's referring to is how we created in that job seeker search area. Can you use that same thing for a position that you would like to have as opposed to one that you currently have? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Especially if you're trying to pivot from one thing to another, you can absolutely use that. You may be switching from teaching and trying to get into curriculum development, and you don't feel, that you have curriculum development as a thing. Fine, use it, put it up there, and then under the bullets, explain why you're qualified for that other role. You absolutely can do it. Okay. Let's see which other ones we didn't answer. Dun, dun, dun. Almost there. Almost there. Hold on. Let me go through. Space, comma, space. What do you do in job title? Does not show up in. Okay. You had this question I told you I'd get back to on study startup does not show as a job title on your LinkedIn. Let's see if we can enter that or what it will do for us. And we'll test that right now. Okay. So underneath my experience section, I'm going to go in and try to edit this. And the one that you have is study startup. Study startup. I think what you're referring to is maybe you're trying to select from this list down here that comes up. You don't have to select from that. See how I just entered it and then I just click save. It will still save it. So if you're doing that, come on, LinkedIn. There you go. Do you see how it shows right there? So if you're trying to enter it and you're feeling like, oh, it won't let me, it's because it's not coming up on the pick list. It's okay, right? You can just enter it manually and hit that save button and it will still take that for you. Okay. Let's see what else we have. Okay. Not sure I understand how to address the location setting if Greater Houston did not work for Houston. I agree. I agree. We have a ticket for this. Here's my best advice for you. We've tried, LinkedIn doesn't even tell us what do they include in Greater Houston. What it appears to be is there's Houston Central, and this seems to be with all of the ones, same thing with Dallas is called Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, I think is the other one. But there's Greater Houston is like the center of Houston. Houston is the center of Houston. Greater Houston is like a ring around Houston. So that means if you're in Katy or if you're in Spring or if you're in Humble, you're still showing up in that Greater Houston. And so what do you put as your availability? I actually recommend you put Houston and not Greater Houston if you're looking for a job. And the reason for that is strictly because we know as recruiters and stuff, those of us that are in the Houston area, that it's hard to tell what's in that, but we know Houston. And if you look at recruiters from other locations, they're not going to know what Greater Houston is. They may be sitting in North Carolina. They have no idea what Greater Houston is versus Houston. They're going to choose Houston. So I think Houston is a much better option instead of Greater Houston for you to pick. Now, if you live on the far north side of Houston in the Woodlands and you don't want to look at anything that's not in the Woodlands, you can put the Woodlands in there, right? And then if I search based on the Woodlands, I'm only going to come up with people that are actually in the Woodlands. But most times people are going to search for Houston. I hope that answers your question. I wish Houston or LinkedIn had a better answer, though. It's just not great. Okay. Let me make sure, Eric. Eric said, all your ceremony is no good news for people like myself who spent their life working on drilling projects all over the planet, sometime relocating, sometime as commuter. Any tip? Eric, I'm not 100% sure I understand your question. Is it about location? Give me a little bit more details if you're still on in the comments, and that way I'll try to answer that for you. Okay. Um, B. Smith said, is there any magic number when getting connections to make sure we don't show up as locked? There's really not a magic number, but the best way to do this is to try and connect with people who have tons of other connections. Because remember, if I have 10,000 or 20,000 first level connections and you connect with me, well, then those 20,000 become your seconds. And all of my seconds, which could be 2 million, come up as your thirds. And you just came up in all those searches. So good people to try and connect with are definitely recruiters and HR people, because they tend to have more connections because of what they do, right? So connecting with those type of people tends to be better. Another good way to do that is if you see somebody out there who has a lot of followers, you can try to do the connection that way. LinkedIn tells you should only connect with people you know, but the algorithm says otherwise. And it's hard because you do have to be a little bit careful, job seekers. There is a rule of 5, at least it's always been a rule of 5. I don't know if it's changed recently, but it used to be when you get a connection request, it's got a thing at the bottom that says, accept or decline. And if you decline, it comes up with, I don't know this person, that's kind of highlighted. And if you click on that, then LinkedIn records it as an I don't know for that person. And it used to be that you got 5 of those lifetime before LinkedIn would lock your account and then make it the only way you could connect with people is by having their exact email address. I think that loosened up some during COVID times. It appeared to, and from things that I've heard with people, but I don't have actual data to verify that for you. But to how do you avoid getting that I don't know checked is you put a note when you try to connect with somebody. You say, okay, I was hoping to expand my network and would love to be able to connect with you in human resources and recruiting and would hope you'd accept my request. And then if they say no, they don't want to, the chance of them saying I don't know are not very strong, right? So there's not a magic number, but the higher you can get it, the better you are. Okay. Melanie, I see I'm sometimes missing skills for job postings. Like you have 6 of 10 skills for this job. And I'm missing things like communication, Microsoft Excel, team player, etc. Okay, so here's a great little fact about that. You see that pulling things from the jobs and the skills, and LinkedIn is telling you that. But the reality is LinkedIn is just pulling that at random from the LinkedIn job title. I don't put those in. I have a way that I can put in some skills where I'd like it to kind of match with people, but not having those specifically are not ruling you out. The system is not ruling you out. It's the recruiter that's basing it. So if it's saying you're missing communications or team player, I would not be worried about it. If you're missing a hard skill like Excel, and the recruiter has gone to the trouble of listing those hard skills like Excel in there, I would be trying to get some experience on the things like that. And if you haven't looked about assessments, especially the Excel assessment on LinkedIn Learning, on your LinkedIn profile, make sure you watch our videos on skills and assessments and how those help you come up in the search, because they absolutely do. Okay. Yes, Amy, you're right. LinkedIn put in those skills. They just randomly pull it from the system. Phil Yates says, do you ever search the minors in the education section? The reality is I don't have an opportunity. I only have the field that says fields of study, which only pulls that one, except my keywords. And I do have in LinkedIn Recruiter, let me show you, the ability to pull in this keywords. And I can type in anything I want in that keywords search filter, and it will pull from anywhere on your profile as long as it is in a field. And so what I mean by that is if you do an attachment to your profile, that's like a resume or an attachment of a list of skills or software, that's a separate document under your featured section, it does not come up in the search. It will not pull keywords from that. But if you put it in a field like the about section, like the project section, the volunteer section, whatever, then it will come up if I do that keyword search. Okay. Um, my degree is in elementary education. Should I change it to just education, or is it misleading? It's not misleading for you to choose that you have a degree in education. That's totally not misleading. Let's be honest here. Your resume, your LinkedIn profile are not legal documents, right? They're meant, you don't want to ever lie on them. That's not what I'm saying. But they're meant to be a marketing tool for you to show others about you. So if you have a job title that you were, I use this one all the time. If you were a Tiger team member with your company, that's going to mean nothing to anybody outside of that company and that team, maybe. But maybe what you really were is you were a procurement manager focused on the following. It's okay to translate things so people understand. We get this a lot with veterans who are coming out of the military. Oh my goodness, there's so much translation that has to occur for veterans of all these acronyms and things that are great skills and things, but they just aren't skills or titles or acronyms that are known outside the military, and they get passed up for a lot of jobs because people don't understand their background. It's okay to translate things, and I think going elementary education to education is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. It'd be different if you said, I have a bachelor's, but I feel like I have a PhD because I worked in education for 10 years. So I'm going to put PhD. That would be a lie, right? That's going too far. And you also don't want to, in job titles, you don't ever want to change your level. So if you were a manager of human resources in your last job, but you're like, yeah, but I really feel like it was more of a director, and you put HR director, that's not accurate, right? That's going to be a lie. When you're going from non-manager to manager, manager to director to VP, those are more succinct levels, and you do need to stay consistent. Okay. Let's see what else we have. And if you are a teacher and you're making that move, we have 3 videos out there just for teachers to help you make that transition if you're trying to get out of education. Anything else? How many hashtags should we have if we made a post? Okay, so there is not anything that they release that tells you 100% this or that. Your posts get a little spammy if you do a ton. I have tried to test through and see. I know at least 5 will work because I've gone back and reviewed it on it. But I think it's more important for you to have the right hashtags. So we have a couple videos that we've done that give you the top hashtags that we had our interns chunking through, pulling up hashtags like crazy, trying to find the ones with the most followers. Because the more followers a hashtag has, the better the chance of your post then randomizing into the feed of some of those people. If you want to check out if a hashtag is good or not, here's how you do it. Go to regular LinkedIn, just your profile page, and type in a hashtag. And I'm going to do hashtag job seeker and show you the number of followers. You see how it's got 464,000 followers here? Now look what happens if I type in the hashtag job seekers with an S on the end. 2 million followers. Now, is everybody if you use hashtag job seekers, are all 2 million people going to see your post? No, right? It depends on how much they're on LinkedIn. It's going to randomize a certain percentage to send it to. But I'd rather have it randomized 5% to 2 million people than 5% to 500,000 people. So if you're not sure, go out and watch one of our videos, which will give you the top 10 in different areas. We got a bunch of hashtag videos. But if not, and you want to just check one independently, that's all you got to do it. Enter in the hashtag, the name, click on it, and it'll show you how many followers it has. Okay. Let's see. Melanie. Let's see. I think I got that one. I'm sorry, guys. Give me just a second. I'm trying to go through them as fast as we can. I don't want to miss anybody. Why is there nothing to help mortgage professionals to transition? How do we best highlight that we have transferable skills? Okay, so is there anything to help mortgage professionals on their own? There's not, right? We do have a couple videos though on how to pivot, and that will help you make that transition. But here's the key thing of it. Nobody, if you're trying to make a pivot, it's important to you, but it's not important to the person hiring. What they care about is the skills of the job that you're targeting. So the best thing for you to do is figure out what is your path. Where do you think you want to go? Then look at the skills against those job descriptions and the skills on your resume and see where the gap is so that you can start building a bridge from one to the other. It is not as hard as you think sometimes to build that bridge. An example I'll give you is we just did a video, oh my gosh, recruiters are continually laid off lately, continually. So we did a video showing how to get from recruiting into the other side of human resources, which has a little bit more stability. And what we did is say, here's what they're looking for in this HR. Here's what you have. Here's some methods to get that training. That's what you want to try and do for yourself, is try and build that bridge from the mortgage professional onto the next one. Okay, let's see. Oops. Maureen's telling me you missed Eric's follow-up question. Yes, my question is about the primary location to show on LinkedIn. Let me see, Eric. Okay, my question about primary location to show when looking for commuter or ready to relocate worldwide. Okay, so I think I understand what you're saying now, is you're willing to go anywhere and be anywhere, and you want to know what you put as your primary location. So a lot of people choose to put United States as their primary location, or will, choose to put Europe or something like that. There's not anything currently that LinkedIn offers you to put worldwide as your primary location. So how do you address that? How do you do it? It's hard because you can put United States in that primary location, but you fall out of searches if you do that, if anybody posts your exact job next door to you. So if I'm in Houston and I put United States because I'm willing to go anywhere, and then somebody does a search and puts Houston in as that primary address, I will fall out of that search unless they choose that open to relocate. So my advice to you, which is not great, is if you're willing to go anywhere and you have a target company that they tend to recruit a lot from a certain location, if you pick that location, you're at least coming up in those searches. But there's not, other than that, a great way to do it with your primary. The best thing that you can do, and it looks like you're ready to really relocate worldwide, you only have 5 slots on that open to work section. So don't even choose states. You want to choose countries or even continents. You want to choose as big as you can for those 5 slots. So I think North America, you can choose North America. Let me check that really quick for you, and I'll show you what I mean. So in your profile on that primary location, come on, LinkedIn, go back up, go here, go to my primary. Oh, no, wait, I got to do it here. Sorry. Open to work. And looking at these locations, I'm going to go both places. I think, yeah, it'll let you pick like North America. I think it'll let you do Europe. Yeah, you might want to do it, by continent or that way. If you have these set, and you can do it here the same that you would do it here, right? If you have those set that way, if in that search I say I'm looking for somebody and I choose somebody who's willing to relocate worldwide, current or open to relocate, you'll come up in those searches. Generally, if I am recruiting for a role that I'm looking for somebody who, they're willing to relocate anywhere, and let me give you an exact example. This HR director that I keep mentioning, that position is open for relocation. Now, it is open for relocation within the US. So I will do my search looking locally first for where the position is located. And then I'm going to broaden my search and say anybody who is willing to relocate to that city. So if they have United States that they're willing to relocate to that city, they're going to pop up in my search. You may not hit the first, but you will hit the second. I know it's not great, Eric. I wish that they gave you a better chance, but okay. Block party. I love your handle. Do past job titles matter? I can have the same exact skills as the job I'm applying for, but get denied. I work in accounting and have yet to land actual accountant positions, 4 years experience. Job titles absolutely matter, right? We've talked about how it does make a difference, your job title. So you do want to be able and show that. Now, if you're out 4 years and the work that you did is something completely different. So let's say that you were in procurement. You can do things like put your job title as procurement coordinator, and then you can put a dash and say accounting professional. So you are still seen as an accounting professional, and that's what your degree is in. You're not lying because you're giving what your title was, but you probably use some of your accounting skills as an accounting professional to be good at that job. But your job titles do absolutely match. Eric, okay, looks like that at least answered your question. Okay, I think I have gotten through all of the different questions that we have. I'm going to give everybody just another minute more. If there's any other questions that you have, please put it in the comments now. And I would so appreciate it if you would take a minute. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button. Please give this video a like. Anytime that you share it from YouTube to other job seekers or to other platforms, it helps our platform for us to reach more job seekers. If anything that you interact with this information like that definitely positively helps us to be able to get to more job seekers and share more people. Let's see. Got another question came in. Rain said, hi, for the career break, can I leave it out, or is it better to put full-time parenting like yours? Okay, so here's the deal. I'd love to tell you that people don't count it against you when you take a career break for whatever reasons, right? If you took it for, mental health reasons, if you took it to go travel for 2 years, whatever, but they do because they're worried that your skills have gotten stale. So if you have a gap on your resume that you took a career break, I do recommend you put one in. Again, don't use LinkedIn's career break feature. Maureen will tag that video in the description of how you can handle it instead, because we know that feature is broken, but you do need to put it out there. And in those bullets, put exactly what you did that's kept your skills up to date and what you've done to not get stale in the knowledge that you have. I promise you, otherwise it's one of the biggest questions we get. Well, why is there a gap here? Well, we saw this. Well, yes, we talked to them about it. They worked their skills. I get that question all the time from hiring managers. You do need to put it on. Okay. Okay. Phil Yates said, on job preferences, I have FP&A director and director of FPA for 2 of my 5 titles I'm looking for. Would either of these work? Do I need both? This is one of the reasons too that we offer that service about spending a one-on-one hour with job seekers, because it's really hard for you to know which one you should put. I will let you know, Phil. Let's take a look and see what's better for this one. Let me share my screen. Okay, so on LinkedIn Recruiter, if I go to the job titles, and let's try the first one. Let's put FP. You see how it spells it out? And I want you to see there's a couple of different ways. This one here, you see the financial planning and analysis manager. You see that it has like the dots and the lines. And then we have the one down here, financial planning and analysis manager. And this one does not have those. This one is doing like a keyword search where it's looking for those words. Even if they put financial analysis and planning manager, it's still trying to find them. This one is trying to pull it exact. Most times I find that recruiters pull the ones that have the lines and the dots. They just default to these because they know they got an exact match. Whereas if they do this, they might get somebody who, has kind of a semi-similar title, but not quite. So in general, I think you are better off picking financial planning and analysis. Your director of financial planning and analysis. And this is just kind of a common note for everybody. Things like the ampersand that he has there don't work. It's never a good idea for you to put those in because they're used different in the searches. So don't always write out and I also recommend, instead of like Director Human Resources, Director of Human Resources, because if somebody enters it in, Director of Human Resources, man, I've seen people fall out of a search because they didn't have the of in there. Crazy, but it's the way it is. Okay. Next is Kimberly. Should I limit listing all my work experience on LinkedIn? Okay, so ageism is real and it does happen. So you do want to make sure you're showing your experience that makes a difference to your candidacy, but trim off things that are irrelevant that are way early on. So for example, if you worked at McDonald's when you were 15, you don't need to keep that on your profile if you're now looking for an HR director role. So try to trim off things at the bottom that don't make sense and don't add to your candidacy. If they do, leave them on. It's okay. The reality is what's on your LinkedIn profile to get you in the search and what's on your resume are different things. And most people are not looking, recruiters and companies, they are not looking at every single thing on your LinkedIn profile. There's just too much. They're using the different searches and stuff. And that's why LinkedIn even truncates things and they have to click the see more. So if it's way, way far down, they're probably not going to see it. But for ageism, if you're worried that you're hitting that, you might want to pull part of the bottom off if it does not apply. Okay. All right. I think that's it, job seekers. I don't see any other comments that have come in. If you do have other comments, go ahead and put them on this video later on. And I will do my best, as does the team, to get in and respond to those and look at those. Please also consider, sharing this video out with other people, as well as our other things that go. We're on LinkedIn and Instagram and X, Twitter, all those things, and you're welcome to connect with us on all of those different platforms. All right, job seekers, you are worthy. You're worthy of a great job, a great career, and most importantly, a great life. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.